Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, I have a beautiful design by Steve Good. I've already got the pattern printed out, prepped, and attached to our material with clear packing tape, and it is a beautifully detailed Christmas design made primarily out of 1/4 inch material, and it is a layered design, so it's going to have that simulated 3D effect that I like in scroll saw woodworking projects and designs. Now keep in mind, this project here is going to tie in the very true meaning of Christmas, being the birth of Jesus Christ, as well as the fun and fanciful side of Christmas with the gifts, the tree, and everything like that. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about with the design here. Again, it is fully prepped. Here is most of the material you will be needing, although you will need a thicker piece of material for the base, which I have prepped on the table saw and I will show you guys. But it's going to be encapsulated in the shape of a classic Christmas tree. As I said, tying in that side of Christmas with the true meaning of Christmas. This first layer here has the lamb laying here, and you can see it's going to be a kind of pseudo shadow box design. I guess that's the appropriate way to say it. But then the next layer here, and I've got a photo of the finished design saved to my phone so I know how to assemble it once everything is cut out. The next layer has the classic nativity scene with Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. And I feel like this here could be its own standalone scroll saw project if you cut it out of thicker material or something like that. Then the next layer, layer 3, has the actual manger with the star on it. So really cool there. And then the backer board, so to speak, is just the classic shape of the iconic Christmas tree. And then the base, you can see here, it's going to be a tabbed and slotted design, so you need to take careful measurements. You can see I've redrawn the cut line to the actual thickness of the material we're going to be scrolling in today's video. But the base is going to be a piece of 3/4 inch pine. Hopefully it's going to finish up nice in today's video, and hopefully it inspires you guys to make a Christmas themed design for your Christmas decor this Christmas and holiday season. I really love that design because it shows the true and honest meaning of Christmas while tying in the fun and fanciful side of Christmas for the little one. So it's going to have great decor options. The 1/4 inch material I use, I pick up locally at Lowe's, and I'm going to always know which side is going to be the face side when I use this material that is very close to 1/4 inch in thickness. It's not a true 1/4 inch material, so please keep that in mind. That's why I redraw the cut line when it comes to slotted and tabbed designs, so please be aware of that. But this material I like to use, it cuts almost exactly like Baltic birch plywood, and it's a cheaper alternative. It has a lighter side here, what I call the face side, and then it has a darker side that has kind of a more reddish tint on the back side. Hopefully that's coming up on camera. You can see the face side is lighter, the back side is darker. So I always try to be aware of that when prepping projects. And speaking of prepping projects, I feel like with this design here, you need to make sure if you're going to stain it or leave it natural, you need to make sure all the grain is going in a uniform direction. And since everything is pretty much prepped and prepared, let's move the camera over to the workbench so we can take the Seiko scroller's drill and drill out the few pilot holes that this project needs, so we can head over to the Rikon scroll saw and start making sawdust. And over here on the workbench, we're going to take the Seiko scroller's drill and drill out all of the pilot holes for internal cutting. And you will note that I have a backer board behind the scroll saw work to prevent blowout of the pilot holes on the reverse side. There's not very many internal cuts on this project, but there's enough to give it some beautiful detail once all of the scrolling is complete. But once all of the pilot holes are drilled, we'll head over to the Rikon scroll saw and begin scrolling. For all of the scrolling on this project, I'll be using a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade, and it will cut through all thicknesses of material that we are using today exceptionally well with minimal chip out. If you guys would like to try this pattern, it's available as a free pattern download over at Steve Good's scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com website over in his free pattern catalog, and it's one of his newer pattern offerings from 2025. When I seen this design, I knew that I would want to make it and bring it to life visually for you guys to see. Here I am cutting out that slot for the tab, and I just test fit it real quick with a scrap piece of this same 1/4 inch material we are using. And a number 5 Ultra reverse tooth blade will simply fly through 1/4 inch material, so if you have a variable speed scroll saw, you can slow your cut rate down if you want to. I played with the speed on the scroll saw for a little bit to get that proper feel, because again, I wanted everything to come out nice and crisp. And you can see us cutting out some of those tight V-turns here. But I always like making layered scroll saw patterns and bringing them to life so we can talk about the versatility and creativity of the pattern itself, because I believe different individual parts of the pattern could be used for standalone designs. So that is always cool. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you guys to subscribe to the channel and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. But we are already almost done with all of the scroll saw work. The time we're going to have in this project is waiting for paints, stains, and clear coats to dry. But once we get the base cut out here, which is 3/4 inch material, we'll head over to the workbench and remove all the pieces carefully from the waste wood. And we'll do a dry fit to get a visual of what the finished design will ultimately look like. Just a really beautiful design that Steve Good offers. Really neat. But now we will head over to sanding, and I'll sand everything on the front and back side with 180 grit Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper in the vibrating palm sander, using small circular motions. And I was being very careful here because I didn't want to break or chip anything away. Especially this piece here is very fragile, as well as the pieces with the stars on them. But after everything is sanded nice and smooth, it'll be time to begin adding splashes of color. And for one of the layers, I spray painted a nice burgundy onto it, and I masked off the border edges with blue painter's tape. And I had it sitting by the wood stove to accelerate drying time. And for some other pieces, we used 2 different shades of Minwax wood stain. A very light shade for this layer here that still allows the natural grains and textures of the material you use to shine through. And then I went for a darker shade for the backer board and the base. Give it a nice earth tone appearance. But we will wipe all the excess of stain off and set everything aside to dry. And while everything was drying, I want to show you guys the Christmas trees we have this year. I got one last year, and this year I set it up on the laser engraver. So I thought that was just a really cool decorative touch for over at the laser area. And of course we also decorate in the workshop itself. Of course we don't go above and beyond because sawdust is everywhere. But we do have the little Christmas tree on the guitar amplifier, and the Jolly Roger gets into the Christmas spirit, and the lights are around the sticker swap sticker wall. But after the stain and paint had dried, it was time to begin the initial glue up. And you could see that I have a photo of the finished design saved on my cell phone. And we're gluing everything up with medium grade CA glue and activator. It allows me to work quickly and efficiently out in the workshop. And even though it basically bonds and dries instantly, I still like to leave projects set aside for around 5 minutes to make sure that the glue has cured. But now we'll go to staining for the final time, and I'll stain the border edge here of the layers of 1/4 inch material to give it the semi-illusion that it's all one solid piece of material as opposed to layers glued up. But we'll wipe off the excess there and set it aside to dry. And once it was dry, it was time to begin the final glue up. But not everything will be done on this project. Again, using medium grade CA glue and activator from Klingspor Woodworking Shop. But after the CA glue had cured, it was time to give it a finish with a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss. And it really makes the grain textures pop, gives it a nice glossy appearance and protection for years to come. And while that was drying, I wanted to show you guys the tree in the model train and nostalgia room. It's packed full of train themed Christmas ornaments and other ornaments we have picked up along the way. Of course, there's a little train at the base of the tree, and the little train table itself is illuminated now. So that's really cool. But then my favorite tree has always been the family tree in the family room. It is packed full of ornaments that are older than me, dating back to 1985, and it's just so many memories tied up in this tree. And we have the pea stubs from Grandma and Grandpa's funerals at the top of the tree, watching over us each and every Christmas season. But after the clear coat had dried, we got some of these little miniature Christmas presents you can pick up at hobby stores or dollar stores, and I glued them to the base of the tree for a nice decorative touch, and the project was complete. And here we have the completed Nativity Christmas tree, cut out completely from start to finish over on the scroll saw, and it finished up beautifully with some nice and crisp Christmas details, celebrating both the true meaning of Christmas and also the fun and fanciful side of the Christmas season and holiday. Thank you, Steve Good, for another fantastic design from your pattern catalog. Once again, it's one of his newer pattern offerings from here in 2025, in case you guys want to go and download it and try it for yourselves out in your garage or workshops. I hope that you guys like how I finished it up in today's video. You guys seen, with a little bit of time, practice, patience, and effort, a beautiful and spiritual piece can be made completely from start to finish over on the scroll saw. Once again, showing off the scroll saw's versatility for beautiful and creative designs. It took me around 30 minutes to scroll everything out completely from start to finish. It's not an overly complex design. It's just with the 4 layers of 1/4" material that make up the tree itself, and you're going to have to glue them all together. You need to be as loyal as you can be to the cut line. So of course, take your time and let the blade do the work, and be, again, as loyal to the cut line as you can possibly be. You guys seen in today's video, I didn't do any kind of stack cutting, so we only have one of these. I don't have another one to finish behind the scenes. I kind of wish I did, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But when you are scrolling through just 1/4" material, a scroll saw blade, if you're familiar with it, will simply fly through that material like butter, especially this material here that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So you guys seen in the time lapse, I played with the variable speed dial on the Raycon scroll saw and just slowed it down a little bit to where I'd have better control with cutting out some of those smaller details, like down here with baby Jesus, the staff that Joseph has, and everything like that, and of course the stars here. I wanted them to come out as nice and crisp as possible. But again, it celebrates both the true meaning of Christmas, being the birth of Jesus Christ, Mary, Joseph, Jesus, the manger, the star, the animals in the stable yard and everything, and then the fun and fanciful side of the Christmas season and holiday with the Christmas tree and the presents and everything. And the reason I said I wish I would have stack cut and made 2 of these, because I'm not overly happy with how this one finished up ultimately, and I'll explain that. Hopefully you guys think this one came out great, and it's a great way to teach making this project visually over here on the platform and everything. But I went with 4 different shades, and the lighter shade that I left natural, I left the layer with Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, I left it natural, and the star that extends here, I didn't add any kind of paints or stains to it. And then we stained the front layer with the 2 lambs there in the manger and the perimeter border here, a very light shade of Minwax wood stain, and then we extended everything here to the side to give it a simulated look of one solid piece of material. We spray painted the 3rd layer a nice burgundy color, and I really think it pops very well with the darker shade of Minwax wood stain we used for the backer board. But I just wish the layer with Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, I wish I maybe had done that, maybe a light blue or just a bright white, to really differentiate that from that front layer, because they're so close in tones and textures, if that makes any sense. And then once everything was done, we also stained the 3/4" pine base with the same shade as the backer board, that dark shade of Minwax wood stain. And then I went along the border here with that lighter shade again to try to blend everything together. But when we added the Rust-Oleum clear gloss at the end, and you can see how it gives it a nice glossy appearance, and it's reflected in the lights of the workshop here, you can see how it kind of made those two tones very similar. So if I had stack cut it, I would finish the other one in a different way. Hopefully that makes sense. But as I said at the beginning of the video, I believe there's several options and versatility for a project like this, with the backer board being just the profile of a traditional Christmas tree. If you wanted to just cut those out and make those for like a display board out of thicker material, the layer with Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, I feel like if you wanted to, you could cut that also out of thicker material and it could be its own standalone project. And you could of course fill it with colored epoxies and resins if you wanted to. So that's just an option to think about when approaching the pattern. I always loved layered scroll saw patterns because there's so many options and versatility on how to make them and bring them to life visually over at your scroll saw. But really cool. Once everything was dry, the clear coat and everything, we jazzed it up a little bit more with some nice little decorative Christmas presents here. These are for diorama purposes and all, and my mom, I went and got these from her, has a bunch of these because she glues these on her ceramics and everything, you know, her Christmas stuff and all. And you can pick these up in variety packs at hobby stores. I believe the dollar stores sell them. So I always think outside of the box when you ultimately finish a project, how can you essentially jazz it up a little bit more to just add that little bit more of a special touch to a project you made out in your garage or workshop. But once again, celebrating the true, honest meaning of the Christmas season, but then when you pull it away, it's encapsulated in the fun and fanciful side of the Christmas season and holiday with the Christmas tree, the decorations, and all of that. So really cool. From start until now, hopefully you guys picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit on making a project like this. And if you make this project from Steve Good's pattern catalog, once again, thank you Steve Good for the fantastic Christmas design. Please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to see your take on the project, on how you ultimately finish it up out where you make stuff in the big wide world we live in. But really cool here. Keep in mind, Christmas is fast approaching, and it's not about the gifts under the tree. It's about your family, friends, and loved ones that are around the tree. I hope you all out there have a very happy and safe Christmas 2025 and a happy new year that'll be right behind that. And hopefully you enjoyed this video from start to finish. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you guys real soon.